All the substances are known very well to me. I've been doing most of them for several years now. One incredible thing about nootropics is they can get my mind really racing, processing everything it could possibly get, even leaving capacity to process old memories in parallel. All this does not feel like stimulation at all. I could even sleep while on it. The combination of the above nootropics is way too much for me, even if I dose low. It took me to a point where I was memorizing everything I sensed in any way, being able to connect it even weeks later, even if it was unimportant, even if I was focusing on something entirely different at that moment. On top of that, multiple thought strains in parallel, each of them much clearer than my normal state. Just fascinating. If I have too much, this leaves me a 1 to 2 hour window in this state before the horrible headaches start. Today I plan to smoke DMT while in this state. DMT is a substance I always took with a lot of respect. It took me several dozens of times to the other side, had total breakthrough experiences where I didn't know who I was. This time it should be different. D+0. I started off with injecting 20 milliliters of cerebrolacin, 10 milliliters each side. D+10 minutes. Took all the nootropics as capsules, 16 milligrams galantamine, 3 grams CDP choline, 2 grams aniracetam, 1 gram pramiracetam, 1 gram oxiracetam, together with 500 milliliters clean water. D+30 minutes. The effects start. Feeling much clearer, a lot more in control of myself. D+40 minutes. It feels like it way too much, my mind is racing, too many thoughts at once. I decide to start the DMT. I prepare 2 vaporizers, each of them loaded with almost pure 60 milligrams N-DMT, beautiful orange crystals. This is a lot more than I usually do, but this time I wanted to go deep. I completely exhaled and started to slowly inhale everything. It feels like someone is burning my lungs, but I keep on inhaling the entire 60 milligrams. This is where it gets crazy. Already while inhaling, I saw pictures on the walls that were there in my childhood. The entire world moved back and forward, combined with the typical DMT fractal textures. I couldn't even move the vaporizer aside, just thoughts in my mind. This is crazy, this was too much, now it's over, going back and forth. I remember I lay down on my bed, as my mind suddenly jumped and I was still sitting on the edge on my bed, it jumped again, me lying on the bed again. At that point, I didn't even know where my body was, then I left it. This time this happened with such an incredible speed, I just noticed being thrown very harsh into the other side, but my ego came with me. This bizarre, somehow known world, where my thoughts used to be guided around, the place where everything in me died before, so real in front of me, while I'm still in control of myself. I remember arriving there as some sort of life form, as some other beings start to greet me in a strange language I could somehow understand. They were wondering what I was doing here. I had to go, and named this place to something like Zwuxel-Devux, couldn't even name this in letters. In my previous trips I used to do some mind technique if I had to come back to reality quick, just in case something happens. I could only do this if some ego is left, of course, and never did this so deep on the other side. So I started to move my thoughts back, forward. The other creatures started screaming at me, this time I couldn't understand them. With a giant flash I came back kinda. This was so horrifying. I saw the room I started to trip in, the vaporizer was still there, but everything was moving in all directions, so fast. At this point I realized some beings from the other side came with me. They were moving around in my room, standing there, somehow looking, hard to describe this. I looked at the clock at the wall, it was jumping back and forward, when I started to realize I was feeling the time. Let's go in even deeper was my thought. I somehow took the second vaporizer and inhaled so deep. It was so hard to keep it in hand and not drop it, to not fall on the ground, but with concentration it seemed to work. I wasn't even done inhaling as I fell on the ground and dropped the vaporizer. I only know this cause I filmed it and watched afterwards. My mind was almost instantly on the other side again, when there was suddenly an incredible intense pull. It pulled my thoughts into another dimension, so far away from anything I have ever seen. This is the point where my ego was finally left behind, my mind was reduced to some information being processed by something above the universe, no feelings at all, so incredible I couldn't even describe it. I saw how our entire world is just one of so many others, consisting of nothing more than pure information, connected to so many others, being in so many different dimensions. Every movement, every change in one world affected only the worlds near it, they all seem to be connected by information strains, where time is just distance between these worlds. These thoughts realized that these worlds were just many other sides, where every consciousness actually exists, our world, as we know it, so far behind it, just as an interpretation of some program inside that universe. Moving outside further and further away, all these universes seem to form some kind of multi-dimensional circle, where the ends of the information strains of time and space seem to go in circles, one universe at each little point of it. Then the Big Bang came. Blackout, I didn't remember anything. It ended with some thoughts wandering around in the nothing, eventually meeting some mind, but it was so far that this mind was me. The thoughts moved back, and came to the mind again. This happened several times until it finally merged and I came slowly back to reality. It took about an hour until I came back to reality and was able to take a look at the clock. Such an amazing trip. It took me about 2 days to get back to normal and another one to get rid of my headache.